Hey everybody, so this is for Mixed Media Morsels number 4, and I have done the technique here in my book, and basically I glued my two sheets together and I gessoed the paper, mostly because this has lines and little details that I don't really want to show through. So then I took PVA glue and I drew these swirls all over the paper and let it dry, and then I used sort of a medium blue color all over. And I like this. This is okay. This, however, this is a hot mess. This did not come out well. And so what happened here is I switched glues. I don't have a ton of PVA glue, but I do have this giant bottle of bookbinding and padding glue that's sold by Club Scrap. I mean, it's like an 18-ounce bottle. And I thought, well, bookbinding and padding glue, that's got to be fairly similar to PVA glue. Not. This, I used this beautiful fuchsia color, and I had painted the whole thing fuchsia. And, and then I took a stencil, a Heidi Swapp stencil, and I just took a sponge and I dabbed the bookbinding and padding glue around. And these little circles were so shiny and pretty. Now, these, when they were dry, they weren't that shiny. There was a slight shine, but they weren't shiny. These were really shiny, like I'd embossed them. And then when I applied, I mixed up sort of a navy colored paint. I didn't have any navy, so I took some black and some blue and some silver and mixed it together. And so that's why it has an ever so subtle sheen. And I loved the paint, and I painted it on, and I went to rub it off, and it stuck. And I tried different things. I tried wet paper towels, and it basically just wet the glue and caused this. And I tried scraping it with a scraping tool, and it did this, and it tore the paper here. Hot mess. Now, I'm sure some of you out there in mixed media land think this is an opportunity, but I'm angry at this paper. I don't like it. And so we'll see whether I'm even going to proceed. I honestly prefer to do resist with ultra smooth embossing powder or ultra thick embossing powder. I've done that a lot of times, and it comes out really good, and you can just scrub and scrub and scrub on whatever it is that you have applied the UD to, and it stays really solid. So for me, I doubt I will use this technique again with the glue, because even here, I mean, this started to get sticky as I'm rubbing over it, and so when you get the glue wet, and I get that. What I understand about these techniques is that these are inexpensive materials that everybody has available to them, and not everybody would have ultra thick embossing powder with a heating gun. And those are investment pieces. Like the large jar of beauty is almost $9 or $10, and the heating gun is like $25, and a bottle of school glue is 80 cents, right? So I get that, and that's fine, but I probably won't proceed with this particular technique in this way because it's making me crazy. And PVA glue is expensive, and I don't want to use regular school glue in my scrapbooks because it's not acid free. So I think I'll just stick with the UD when I do resist. And I may go ahead and do one of these papers with the UD, and if I do that, I will attach it to this as a continuation. But for now, this is what I've done with Mixed Media Morsels number 4, and I think this may be the last time. But thank you, Kat, for showing me this technique. It was interesting to learn about the resisting qualities of certain kinds of glues. And by the way, Club Scrap's bookbinding and padding glue does not work. All right, thanks, and have a great day. All right, so this was take 2 of my emboss resist technique, and I tried something that I knew I was a little more familiar with. So I did use the same sort of fuchsia hot pink acrylic paint in the background. And then I took, I think you can kind of see in there, that's a French script stamp from Stampin' Up! From many years ago, many moons ago. And I used Majestic Blue, VersaFine ink to stamp that down. Then I took a stencil that I had cut on my silhouette recently, and I took an embossing ink dabber, which looks like this. It's a product from Stampendous, and I picked it up at Michael's. And gosh, all the little, like the labels rubbing off. But it's just, it's a embossing ink in a dabber, which is really kind of cool. So I dabbed through, and then I used UD, ultra thick embossing powder, instead of the glue. And that's just because for me, when I tried to pull up the paint, the glue would become wet. And you saw my hot mess failure. And so I just went back to something that I know and feel good about. So I used the UD instead of the glue, and I just put that on there. And I tried to make it a little bit on the random side, and I think that looks cool. And then I took the same paint that I'd mixed. This is an acrylic paint that is black, blue, and silver, and so it has a slight silvery sheen. You probably can't pick it up on the screen, but it has a slight silvery sheen, and it's navy, and I like it. So I have a whole bottle of it now because I mixed up enough of it. So now I've got a whole bottle of this lovely blue. Anyway, I put it over there, and then I wiped it off, and I really like how this turned out. So now I'm going to take this, and I'm going to scrapbook this photo from a year ago. Yeah, about a year ago. Maybe a year and a half ago. It was when I was working at Columbia High School. Maybe it's 2013, maybe it's 3 years ago. I don't remember. Anyway, they took a photo of me, a staff photo, and I like it. It's a good picture of me. It works out well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to scrapbook that, and I've just pulled some supplies. This lovely textured paper is some club scrap paper that I'm going to use, and I pulled out my sequins and some thickers that I need to get used up, and some other thickers that I need to get used up. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the fast forward mode and start scrapping this thing, and hopefully it will come together quickly. Okay, so I'm getting started on this, and I decide I want a little over a 1-inch border on that mixed media paper that I created, the the Resist. And so I'm cutting my paper down to create a picture mat with that paper. It was difficult to find a photo that I thought went well with the hot pink, but I was committed to it. This is some scraps out of my scrap bin. They were club scrap, and the design, I don't really want the design for this particular thing, but it's okay that it peeks through a little bit. And that's another scrap from Club Scrap, the navy. I have now put my scrap bins right next to my desk, so they're the first thing I reach for, which I'm really happy with because I'm actually starting to use my scraps rather than having them just build up. And anyway, in my scrap bin was this paper, well, this stamped images I had been playing with at some point, I don't know when, and I had created sort of an ombre effect and then stamped over it, and I was practicing probably my collaging technique, my stamp collaging technique. It was on glossy cardstock with some kind of pink ink, I don't know, but it was in my scrap bin and I liked it, so I decided to use it on this layout. I'm gonna pull some of these thickers, and I'm going to put the title here. Those thickers have like canvas finish to them, the letter thickers. And the other ones are just white chipboard, shiny. I think they're meant to be mistable or paintable, but with this one I decided to stay with the white because it created a nice contrast. I found that one with a little heart window, and I decided to adhere some of that pink paper behind it because I love that pink paper so much. I'm going to use it up. And then that created that visual triangle. And I pull some of these little heart chipboard stickers. And now I'm going to take this brand new brush pit pin, and it's in a gray. I just got these pit pins. I was excited to try them out, and I am loving them. So I decided to outline the outside of my layout rather than add another piece of cardstock, which I think looks nice. It actually, I think, came out really nice with that subtle inked line. But I'm trying to be careful to make sure it's pretty even all around, even though I'm eyeballing it. And then the edge of the mixed media paper was white because the paper that I did it on was white. So I dragged that pit pin around the outside to color the edges of the paper. Now I'm going to make a journaling spot. That's just a chunk of white cardstock from my scrap box. Well, I outlined it in the gray because I thought, yeah, it'd be nice to mimic that again. Outline it in the gray. And I'm getting kind of excited about it because I felt like at this point the layout was almost done, but it felt a little like it lacked details. I always add a lot of details. So then I pulled out this new Tim Holtz Distress Marker in Picked Raspberry, which I also just got. Super excited about it, and I outlined it. And I was actually thinking at this point about a technique that I was learning about using distress markers, but then I thought, there's not enough there to do what I want to do. So I pulled my Picked Raspberry pad out, and I just put some on that piece of plexiglass and watered it down. And I'm working on making an ombre effect behind the over the top of the journaling. And then I decided I wanted to put the Picked Raspberry on the title. I'm almost done here. I'm going to glue down my journaling spot. And then I remembered, oh yeah, I was going to use those sequins. So I pull out the sequins and start arranging them, and I'm glad I used the sequins. They added a nice shiny bit without going crazy. This last one kind of gave me fits where I wanted to put it, but I finally decided to put it there. And then that is the layout. So here's the close-ups. And I have finished Mixed Media Morsels number 4. And I just love this layout. I really like it. It makes me happy. All right, thanks, and have a great day.